but what and how are related to the subjectivity of the writers. In the text, we can find, we can sense, we can identify, we can investigate different levels of layers of, let's say, writers' representation of the subjectivity. In order to answer to the questions, or in order to explain or analyze the text, our students should be able to investigate to answer to the questions why and how. Another writer considers the stylistics as an intensive study of a literary text. What is intensive study? Literary text is deviated from the norms of everyday communication of language. It means the writers who are engaged in writing, making the interpretation of any text, might not be subjected to follow the linguistic general rules. They might include, they consider themselves to be very much licentious of their own kind of license. So they would like to use different kinds of metaphors, figurative use of language, and their subjectivity, their feelings, tone, intention, and feeling. Three components are very important in any kind of communication. And then they are interrelated. What's the tone? What's the intention? What's the feeling of the character, of the writer? Anyone who involves in the text is very important. I'd like to present some pictures here related to style. What is the style? Buffon considers the style is the man himself. Man himself is, I'm sorry because I didn't want to change it. This is a kind of very old definition. That's why man also represents woman. I don't want to, this is a very gender sensitive notion, but this is not my language. Here, either man or woman, that's why I decided to present women first in the line of my presentation. You can see the women, you can see the men, and the style. Every human being has the subjectivity. Subjectivity is a kind of identity of a human being. The identity is uniquely different among the human beings, and they would like to portray themselves in a different way. You can see the pictures how every individual is trying to portray himself or herself in a very different or in a unique way. This example is very important to me because the writers in any kind of literary genre also would like to portray themselves, the kind of their personality, the kinds of their feeling, using different kinds of styles in their writing. Now I want to go to style. Style and stylistics. What are the similarities? What are the differences? So what is style? What does it include? It is the writer's way of thinking for a particular reader and purpose. Who are going to be the reader of this poem? What is the purpose? Why am I writing this? So what kind of style now the writer is going to decide? Let's say if it is very, very embellished style, embellished means very highly decorated style, with a high kind of decorum means very much fancy language, very much flowery language is the kind of very tough. A small children might not understand the kind of literature or short stories or poem with that. That's why the writer has to consider if somebody is writing any kind of genre for the young learners, for instance, for children, for instance, children's story, then the writer considers the style of his or her one. And style is a means of discovery for both writer and reader. Style is the result from linguistic choices. Linguistic choices means language is a system of systems, a system of systems. That's why a language provides the opportunity to use unlimited expressions through the limited rules of grammar and vocabulary. That's why any writer has abundance of opportunity to use the language for any purpose. So style sharpens expressive meaning as well as referential meaning. Whatever we express, our expressions are there, but we also keep referring. Referring or referential means we refer any kind of, let's say, object, any kind of subject matter inside of any type of context. So style is not merely a kind of, let's say, ornament only. It is not only decoration of the language, but it also conveys important meaning and evaluation, which is very, very important. Then the readers have to work quite a lot to dig out the meanings of the writers. There are four senses of the term style. They are the language habits of one person. What is it, language habits of one person? If we consider William Shakespeare, James Joyce, Ernest Hemingway, or William Wordsworth, we can find fundamental differences between and among these writers. Basically, Shakespeare's writing style, you can see. This is very different kind of English. Selection of different vocabulary, what we call diction, the kind of decorum, the styles. For instance, when Hamlet is very angry with his mother, he says, "Frailty, thy name is woman." I wanted to translate this into Nepali. Rikarcha, timro naam, aime manche ho. And then when he was in a dilemma, he wanted to take revenge. He wanted to take the revenge against his uncle, Claudius, but he could not. That's why his dilemma, he was postponing all the time. That's why he could not take the revenge. And he was quite confused. And there is a very popular soliloquy, Shakespeare style. To be or not to be, that is a question. The most popular soliloquy of William Shakespeare. There are the uniqueness. Hemingway's style is writing very simple language, but ideas are very difficult to, let's say, grasp. So simplicity in the language, but very complexity, a kind of complexity in terms of the feelings, tones, and intentions, meanings. So style also has another term like the language habits shared by a group at one time. For example, if we say Renaissance, Augustan period, Old English, heroic, poetry, etc. When we talk about Renaissance, we can find a similar kind of style. We come to modern language, modern English, modern literature, postmodern literature, then we can find different styles. So say the right thing in the most effective way. Good manners, clear and refined style, the writers should, because otherwise the readers cannot make out the meaning. Evaluation and description of literature, literary criticism or appreciation, good, effective, beautiful writing. So what I am trying to say is, later on I will relate this point with another slide. Now I want to talk to you about elements of style in literature. Big picture element. What are they? How a character changes throughout the story? That is character development. In a story, the character keeps changing. There are round characters and flat characters. The round characters are very dynamic. They help develop the story. They are very, very dynamic. The static characters are very lousy, boring, sluggish. The writers create that type of characters considering the roles of the character. What are the roles of the character? That's why sometimes let's say literary piece might be interesting or might be boring. How the writer has created the characters and how do they move in the story. Dialogue, line is spoken or internal thoughts. Some are spoken, otherwise we will have to use the reader's response theory. Reader's response theory means the writer is telling something but not telling everything. It is the responsibility of the reader to make out the meaning. When the writer tries to make out the meaning, the writer tries to relate the anaphoric and cataphoric references. What was already said in the past and what is the character going to say or the author is going to say in the future further. These are related, combined together. Foreshadowing hints dropped about what's going to happen later. You can see until we reach in a denouement, there is the characteristics of any kind of literature. Denouement, this is a French word. Denouement is certain position when any story or any, let's say, text develops in terms of its meaning. Until the reader reaches to the denouement, it's very much difficult to guess or identify what will happen next. So denouement gives a kind of clear line now. So foreshadowing is the hints are dropped for the time being. So we don't know, the readers don't know what will happen next. It means then cataphoric reference is very important. Cataphoric means the reference that is yet to come in the text. Poem, whether something is poetry, prose, drama, or short story or sonnet, what it is, it depends. The style changes depending on the genre. We call genre. So in the big pictures, any genre contains imagery, images that are seen, say, so items shown with descriptive words. That's why the reader can make some kinds of pictures in the mind while reading. Irony, that is an occurrence, that is sometimes the reader is expecting something based on the background of the story or the information the characters have provided. However, and then the similar kind of expectations of the reader. However, at some point of time, surprisingly, the reader realizes that no, it is just the opposite. Something happens in a different way. Mood is the atmosphere of work, the attitude of the narrator, attitude of the character. Sometimes, for instance, if you have ever read Tristram Shandy, what happens? Tristram Shandy is a character in a fiction. And then what does he say? I know everything about myself. Even I know about myself before I was born. The story starts like this. And how did he know? Before he was born, he says, it was 11 o'clock, Sunday night, my parents decided to give me a birth. So the character knows about himself from the time 11 o'clock Sunday night when his parents decided to give him a birth. This is how let's say, the writer himself becomes a kind of narrator in a very disguised form. That is the mood of the speaker narrator, pacing, how quickly the narrator unfolds the story. Sometimes the narrator keeps the reader waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. The development of the story is so much delayed. Sometimes it is very much, linked immediately. It also makes a lot of difference in the reading. Next one is point of view. What is point of view is the kind of narrative technique. Narrative technique is whether the narrator in any story or any poem, in an essay, is narrating the story of the text in a first person narrative technique or the third person narrative technique. Sometimes we can say I. Tristram Shandy says I know about myself before I was born. So when he talks about my parents, but still he is talking himself. Sometimes third person narrative technique, somebody talks, does not use I. So they are third person narrative technique. This is called point of view. Structure. The story had the structure. Every story has a structure except the postmodern style. The postmodern style is something different. Postmodernism has challenged the establishment. The concept of postmodernism is until modernism, the world was governed by the old establishment, basically the Christianity, basically the churches. That's why Nietzsche came up with the ideas. No, if the church controls thinking process of the human being, human minds, it will mar the creativity. Why? Any writer could think within the limitation of the church's authority. But human mind is so broad, can be more creative, can think beyond the world as decided by the church and religious authority. That's why it should be broken. There should be no boundary to control the writers. That's why let's start thinking what comes into the mind of the human beings. There are the objective raw materials in the world, and the writers can use subjectivity. These writers should not be, prevented or controlled for using their subjectivity. Allow them to write, being very carefree. That was the idea. So the structure, except in postmodernism, is like how the story is told or narrated, beginning. How does it begin? Give some ideas to the reader. What kinds of action develop? And where is the climax? Where is the denouement? What kind of indication the denouement provides us so that we can guess what will happen next? Or how is the story organized? Introduction, main body, conclusion, or just a rebirth in the style of journalistic writing? Symbolism, using an element of the story, presents something else, symbols. And the reader is subject to interpret the meaning of the text using symbols. For instance, sometimes in Tristram Shandy, for example, the structure is completely different. If you have ever read, how is it different? Because the writer does not write the preface in the beginning, and the writer writes something somewhere in the middle of the book. Oh, I forgot to write the preface, introduction of the book. So I'll write preface in page number 500 something. And the writer also leaves some blank pages in the fiction. And what does he say? I have left some blank pages in page number this. So if you like to join me to be a co-author, please join me and write something. And you also become a fiction writer. That is totally different. But normally, if you can see, the classical fictions or classical literature has particular structure. Theme is the message delivered by or shown in a work. It has the central topic. It has the theme. So the themes are based on the kind of, let's say, politics, the kind of power, the kind of hegemony, the kind of love, okay? So the kind of psychology, there are different themes. For instance, tone. Tone is the writer's attitude towards the subject or the manner with choosing vocabulary, presenting information, formal, informal. How sometimes even in our colloquial language, we say, look, this guy has changed his tone. Tone, intention, feeling are very much interrelated. Now, line by line elements, there are some, let's say, figures of speech, and the writers also use the figures of speech in there. Our students should be able to analyze. The writers also use alliteration, assonance, colloquialism, diction, jargon, metaphor, etc. I don't discuss everything because you know that alliteration is the repetition of consonant sound. They use the effect, assonance, repetition of the vowel sound. Colloquialism is informal language, slang, or regional language, dialect, for instance. Diction is the correctness of the overall grammar. This is the choice of the language, let's say vocabulary words, depends on the accent of particular, let's say, a particular location. Sometimes when the writer in a story represents a character from the very lower working class level, poor family, and the writer considers that this family cannot speak language with correct grammar, and there is the deviation. The deviation means the writer intentionally, knowingly, wittingly would like to write incorrect language because the writer considers this is the expression of the character representing an uneducated working class. For instance, jargons are that are the terms specific to certain field. Jargons coming from medical science. If this is the science fiction, the words, the phrases coming from the science and technology. If this is a religious fiction, for instance, let's say the Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained by John Milton. What happens there? A lot of connotations, a lot of references are brought from the story of Bible. And then the angels, when the God punishes the angels, and these angels are called the fallen angels. And then until people understand the story of Bible, it's very difficult to make interpretation of Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. These works quite a lot of a referential function, what I was talking before. Metaphor, a means to compare two elements. So the writer just comparing something, but indirectly. Now we have to like a prover things. So the readers have a lot of responsibility. There are a lot of repetitions also. Repetition is very powerful to make out the meaning. So using the same words or phrases in a short amount of time for emphasis. Even in the nursery rhyme, ba ba black sheep, ba ba black, ba ba black sheep. You can see the sounds, repetition of the sound, for instance, and even the words sometimes repeated. Rhyme, when the same instance, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? For instance, going up and down. Sentence variety, structure, and then their length, etc. Syntax is the arrangement of words in the sequence, which is a kind of correct grammar. Now, I discussed briefly about stylistics, and then I discussed quite a lot about style. Then, in summary, what is style? Style is the ways of the author's use of language to create the mood and meaning of a text. The kind of language an author is using in literature, that is style. The set of techniques and types of language the author utilizes. Why does the author utilize it? To exhibit the unique personality and voice of their writing. They want to be different, uniquely individual, uniquely different. So what is stylistics then? Stylistics studies the style. Why is the style different from style A to from style B? So stylistics here investigates the kind of components that are involved in the style, the kind of components we have discussed. Every writer might not use the alliteration. Every writer may not use a similar kind of figures of speech, for instance. They might be using different. They might be using different kind of mood. All the writers do not have same setting, not same mood, for example. So stylistics, the study of the devices. It is a kind of science, and this is used in language that affect one's interpretation of a text. Again, this is very important. Subjectivity is very important. Writer's subjectivity on the one hand, again the reader's subjectivity. What is the reader's subjectivity? Let's say you have 30 students in a class, and 30 students may understand a poem in the text in 5 different ways. Why is it so? Because the writer is not telling what the writer wanted to say. That's why there is a text. Text is speaking. Our students interact with the text that is provided. This is a poem. Then what happens? How do they draw the meanings or interpret the text? depends on our readers, our students' subjectivity. What is the subjectivity? Again, this is very complicated. My subjectivity and friends, your subjectivity might not be different. Subjectivity is a kind of horizon of expectations. What is horizon of expectations? This is the worldview. Worldview means what is my perception about the world, about the universe, about politics, about human relations, and the experiences, emotions, emotions, our experiences, our desires, and then how we are brought up, our education, our communication with varieties of people shape our life, and it also shapes the language and the thought process. That's why combine these all the things makes us shapes our subjectivity. Subjectivity is individual perception or let's say meaning making process. That's why this is individual. Our students also do the same thing. We have to give the due respect to multiple interpretation because if our students can interpret the text with the logic and with the evidence from the text, for instance, it is very important to respect. That's why. What is stylistics? This is study of the devices, literary devices used in language, and those devices affect one's interpretation of the text. Those devices are the evidence. We don't allow our students to simply speak or interpret out of the blue. We can, let's say, ask the students to identify the evidence. What is identifying the evidence? What are the literary devices that are helping them to make out the meaning? How are they explaining those? How are they raising, let's say, understanding the literary devices is very important. So use of particular rhetorical devices. There is the rhetoric, and those devices help create a special effect. Combination of linguistics and literary criticism. And the most important thing here is our students must have linguistic, and then contextual competence. What is the contextual competence? Content competent. In other words, content competent is very much the part of the literature. Content component is the elements of literature. What are the elements involved in poem? What are the elements involved in fiction? What are the elements involved in a play or a drama? How can they link those elements and identify? Are they aware of that? That is one thing. Another is linguistic competence. Are they able to make out the meaning of the language used in the literary text is very, very important. Stylistic examines the form and tone of the text also, the structure, how it is formed, and what is the tone of the writer. Because it is not writers do not express in a very simple way like our everyday communication. I want to give one example from John Keats' Ode on a Grecian on John Keats. Everybody has read it, I understand that. I have chosen only one stanza from here. Her melodies are sweet, but those on her are sweeter. Therefore, yea, soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared, pipe to the spirit, ditties of no tone. Look here. Now when our students have to make the interpretation, then there are the cataphoric, anaphoric references. What are they? These cataphoric, anaphoric references are synonyms, antonyms, for example. What we call in linguistics, we call them foregrounding. What is foreground is, let's say, hard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. You can see there, hard, honor, sweet, sweeter, sweet, sweeter, synonyms, hard, honor, antonyms. Now, why this kind of repetition or these synonyms? These give linguistically what I call is these types of vocabulary give prominence in writing. Prominence is create a kind of effect, better effect, more effect, higher effect. That's why the writers use those kinds of words. And then our students, they see this stuff. The writers, stylistics is being able to now analyze the style of the writer stylistics. Can our students analyze the style of John Keats? Her melodies are sweet, but those on her are sweeter. Just the melody, there is an on, this is an object, but the writer gives the impression that any kind of songs people sing, they are sweet. But the songs that are unsung are sweeter than the songs that are sung. So the kind of power creating the effect, therefore, yet soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear. I don't need to hear through my ear. When I observe and perceive the song and the tone, I enjoy better than that. So, no tone is sweeter than the tone of the song. You can see the kind of paradox, the kind of irony, how the language. Now, when I ask our students to interpret the text, they have to prove, they have to make out the meanings of the words and phrases. They must be able to link the anaphoric and cataphoric references. The references in the back and the reference further. I have taken out one stanza from Lakshmiprasad Devkota's Pagal, which is lunatic. Clever and eloquent you are. Your formulas are ever running correct, but in my calculation, 1 minus 1 is always 1. In Nepali, it says, तिम्रो हिसाबमा साथी एकमा एक झिके शून्य हुन्छ तर मेरो हिसाबमा साथी एकमा एक झिके एकै हुन्छ. How can our students, what is the reference? This line is very important to make out the meaning, interpret, which is not possible without the references. Referential function, not only expressive function is not helping our students to understand and interpret because it stands with some kind of references. Expression alone does not give the kind of impetus for our learners. You work with your senses 5, with the 6th I operate. तिम्रो 5 वटा इन्द्रिय चल्छ साथी तर मेरो 6औं. He does not say 6 वटा, with the 6th I operate. How can we link these? Brains you have, my friend, but the heart is mine. To you, a rose is but a rose. For you, a rose is a rose. But to me, rose has Helen. I can see Helen and Padmini. Very beautiful. Let's say in a fairy tales, they are the characters, they are heroines. I can see in Rose, I can see those beautiful women with power. But for you, rose is rose. You are strong prose, but I am liquid poetry. I am very dynamic. I can change my shape immediately. I can flow smoothly. You freeze, my friend, but I melt, for example. So this is from Lakshmiprasad Devkota I brought now. I have chosen one poem, Flee. You must have read this by John Donne. John Donne is a metaphysical poet. Metaphysical poetry has the characteristics of bringing, juxtaposition means bringing two opposite ideas together. This is the quality of the metaphysical poetry. It is a very short poem. What happens? Let's see. What is the relationship? How can we help our students analyze? This is one sample of the kind of helping our students analyzing the poem. Mark Burdi's Flee. I don't read. I will play like maybe videos. Just see it. Then after I will click. If the link works, somebody will read. And again, there is a kind of short drama. The character, one of the characters reads and also performs the action. This is second stanza and this is third stanza. Let me check in the third stanza if I can. Okay, if I can play a video in the third stanza, I have a link, then it will be easier for you to understand and I will explain. Hyperlink. It's not working. Why? I don't know. The hyperlink does not work here. Anyone knows? Convert. Oh, maybe this kind of Zoom is not working. Anyway, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I had a video link. So I read this. Look, there are two characters, one man and one woman. Only the man talks. The woman is silent. In communication, man is the addressor. The woman is the addressee. The man wants a woman. He loves. But the kind of proposal the woman dislikes. The flea is a kind of very small insect. It bites human beings. How John Donne is bringing two opposite ideas together. Mark but this flea, and mark in this, how little that which thou deniest me each. It stalked me first and now it socked me first and now socks thee. And in this plea our two bloods mingled be. Thou knowest that this cannot be said, or seen nor same nor loss of maidenhead, yet this enjoys before it ooh, and pamper swells with one blood made of two, and this, alas, is more than we would do. Oh, stay, 3 lives in one plea spare, where we all must may more than married are. Displease you and I, and this our marriage bed, and marriage temple is, though parents gods and you we're met and cloistered in these living walls of jet, though use make you apt to kill me, let not to that self-murder added be, and sacrilege 3 sins in killing 3. Cruel and sudden hast thou sinned, purple thy nail in blood of innocent, wherein could this plea guilty be, except in that drop which is socked from thee. Yet thou triumphest and sayest that thou find'st not thyself, nor me the weaker now. 'Tis true, then learn how false fears be, just so much honor when thou yieldest to me, will west at this plea, 'tis death look like from thee. So you can see what happens, the story there, the man proposes, the woman, and then suddenly a flea, a small insect that bites a man, and it flies to woman, it bites on her head. And the woman realizes. Suddenly the man picks up the flea from the woman's head and he starts talking. Look, this flea. I proposed you, but you denied. I wanted to love you. It was my proposal on you, but you refused my proposal. Look, this flea first sucked my blood, and then it flew to you and sucked your blood. Now my blood is already injected by this flea into your blood. How can you say no now? Because our bloods are mingled together. And then it is not only 2 bloods mingle, 3 bloods mingle. We two and the flea. And the woman is angry. When the man was carrying the flea in his finger, then then the woman suddenly kills the flea. And the man says, look, what is the problem? Oh, stay 3 lives in one flea spare. In one flea, there are 3 lives. His life and our lives, where we almost need. You say no, but we are then married now. This is more than a marriage bed because our blood is mingled. This plea is you and I, and this our marriage bed and marriage temple is. So you cannot say no. Thou use make me apt to kill me. Let not to that self-murder added be. And sacrilege 3 sins in killing 3. Killing a flea means you are killing 3 lives. Because my life, my blood is there in flea, your life, your blood is there in flea, and the flea's life. There are 3 lives. So why are you killing 3 lives? Killing 3 lives means 3 sins. You are committing 3 sins. Cruel and sudden hast thou sins. You became so cruel. Purple thy nail, you kill the flea with your nail. And you can see in blood of innocence, the flea is innocent, and you have a blood of innocence. Wherein could this flea guilty be? It is not guilty except one thing. It is guilty only for that drop of the blood which sucked from your head. Yet thou trampest and said that thou findest not thyself, nor me the weaker now. You thought you have won, you have got the victory, you are not weaker, it's true. Then learn how false fears be. Just so much honor, when thou wilt to me, will waste as this flea's death took life from thee. So this was unwanted, unexpected. You took the life. The woman was denying. So here, how do the students interpret this type of, let's say, poem? They have to see and analyze different kinds of styles. Literary devices, I have already discussed a number of, from, let's say, metaphoric references to anaphoric references, metaphoric references, metaphor, simile, alliteration, etc. The students should be able to. We have to give the skills to the story, for instance. And there is a summary here of the story. Very quickly, I want to give you the summary. Then you'll have a better idea about this. Stanza 1. If the lover's blood is mingled in the flea, then what happens? There is a kind of equivalent to their very internal, intimate relationship. The intimate relationship, like the couple type of relationship. Now they cannot say no type of relationship. The speaker implies it's not such a big deal. Please say yes, accept my ideas. This is not a big deal to be intimate, to have the relationship between you and me. Accept, simply accept my proposal. Because we are already connected in the flea. What the flea has done? Compare. You denied me, but, indirectly, we have become a single lifeline. Stanza 2, don't harm the flea. Why? Since the flea is you and I. Why you and I? Our blood is mingled. Killing it is 3 sins in one. You are killing one, but committing 3 sins. Murder. Self-murder. Murdering me, murdering yourself, murdering the flea. Third stanza. Well, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? This is the English of that time. What do you know? You kill the flea, you kill the flea, and then we didn't die. We didn't die, for instance. Therefore, there is a little risk in going to bed with me. Please say yes, for instance. Now, what I am telling this is how John Donne has been able to bring two opposite ideas together in the metaphor, using the metaphors, metaphysical poetry. Now, let's analyze this poem a little bit. How can we analyze this poem is, you can see the assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sound. E and A vowel sound, yet this enjoys before it oo and E sound, this free E sound. I and this. Alliteration, repetition of consonant sounds like ma, Mary's bait, Mary's temple. Imagery is used to make readers perceive things, like using five senses. How little that which thou deniest me is. Now, as a reader, we have to perceive, we have to visualize, we have to make images. Except in that drop, we can create a picture of drop of the blood in our mind, soaked by the flea. And then these people, the man and woman were living in between two walls, like means they are getting closer and closer. Personification. Flea is a kind of insect, not the human beings, but the character. The writer was putting the words in the mouth of the main character, the man, and then animating flea. Animating is making the flea like a human beings. Although the flea is an insect, we normally use it rather than he or she, neuter gender, but making the kind of creating a kind of gender. That is, the metaphor is a figure of speech. There is a comparison is made. Flea as an extended metaphor to express his feelings of physical intimacy. Using flea, the man was linking, developing, and explaining or justifying the kind of physical intimacy with the woman. So he was comparing mingling of blood with the act of consummating the marriage. Mingling the blood between yours and mine is equivalent to marriage bed. Drawing those ideas. Enjambment is the kind of, continuous flow of the sentence. Stanza, we understand the stanza, we understand the rhyming scheme, A, B, B, C, C, D, 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 rhyming couplets. So these are all the, let's say, literary devices of a style. If our students are well equipped with the knowledge and skills of these devices, it will be easier for them to interpret the poem. This is all major theme and others I want to skip. So when we go to the style kinds of thing, what happens then? There are different types of styles. If our students are familiar with these types of styles, then it will be easier. If the teachers are familiar with these styles, it will be easier for our students to interpret. Style as a choice. As a writer, we choose if we want to create any literary genre, if we want to write a such story or write a poem. We choose the style of our work using the subjectivity, considering your horizon of expectations, what I say, the worldview, your liking, your interest, your emotions, your feelings. In a similar way, other writers also do the same thing. So, style is developed as a result of the choice. The writer willingly chooses a kind of style. For example, in Mateko Mancheko Bhasan Madhyarat Pachiko Sadaksita, Bairai Kaila, the title itself, a tipsy man's address after the midnight's road. For example, Gupi Serchan Hami, Carom board ka goti hu, fagat carom board ka goti. He compares the carom board, the piece of carom board, with the politicians of our country and this goti, carom board ko goti lai strike le nahani agadi badदैन. In the same way, कसैले हामीलाई धकेल दिनु पर्ने, कसैले हामीलाई हिर्काइदिनु पर्ने, अनि मात्रै हामी अघि बढ्ने. हामी वीर छौं, हामी बुद्ध छौं, तर हामी वीर छौं. हामी बुद्ध भएकै कारणले त वीर छौं. You can see the style of choice the writer has wittingly chosen this style. Another is style as a deviation. What is deviation? Deviation from the norms of the language. Language is a norm. But let's say Mahakavi Lakshmi Prasad Devkota said, uh, what does he say is, श्रव्यलाई देखेर दृश्यलाई सुनेर म पागल बने. Shravya, something seen. I became lunatic by listening the visual and seeing the sound, just reversing the ideas. So Devkota deviated. तिम्रो हिसाबमा साथी एकमा एक झिके शून्य बाँकी रहन्छ, तर मेरो हिसाबमा साथी एकमा एक झिके एकै बाँकी रहन्छ. Deviated. So Lakshmi Prasad Devkota very much willingly chose the style of deviation, style as a situation, creating a kind of situation to justify style as a temporal phenomenon. What is temporal phenomenon is style keeps changing according to time. Shakespeare time, I'm about to finish, very close to finish. Shakespeare's time, then the style was different. Then we moved towards modern English, Elizabethan period, modern English, and post-modern era. Then what happens? Styles keep changing. Styles are changed. And style as an individual, every individual writer has a different style. If our students understand how the styles are generated, or how can we, what is the basis for interpreting literary genres? So, why should we do stylistics then? Stylistic is to explore language first, and particularly to explore creativity in a language. How the writer has become so much creative, and the writer has used different types of literary devices. Different types of literary devices means the effect. To create different devices, create different effect in the interpretation, in meaning. For example, doing stylistics enriches our ways of thinking. About language, we have observed, exploring the language that offers the substantial purchase on our understanding. What is substantial purchase of our understanding of the literature? Substantial purchase is substantial kind of, let's say, knowledge and skills. Now, very quickly, give me 3 minutes, like implications for literature pedagogy. When we have the knowledge, we have the skills of, let's say, stylistics. What are the advantages? What are the implications? We can give students a task for stylistic analysis, and our students we might expect our students to come up with the, like, they will study diction, they will use figure of speech, ambiguities. Ambiguities means giving multiple meaning. More than one meaning is multiple meaning. So in literature, there might be multiple meaning. For instance, which is the gardener in grade 11? And towards the end, who is the gardener is the question. And people come up with multiple meaning if they don't see the clear evidences. Some people think that the gardener was the lady's husband. Some people think that the gardener is a god. For instance, multiple meanings and multiple interpretation. Now we have to check. If our students, our teachers are familiar with the concept of ambiguities, the possibilities in literature, that helps quite a lot. Imagery, poetic devices, rhyme, language variation, foregrounding, dialects and register, deviation, formal features, etc. So dialect is again very important depending on the place. When Tana Sharma visited, Doti, and then the women, 2 women, it was raining, and then they wanted to take this, let's say, they wanted to go into the shed, and there was a cow shed, and they stayed for some time. There were 2 women, and they start telling, Thaura Achin Baizao. But these people didn't understand why Thaura Achin Baizao is Nepali, but dialect. These women were very shocked because there were two women and Tana Sharma, his friend. Two men went there. They were scared. And instead of saying, directly they say, yeah, ठाउँ छैन बाहिर जाऊ. ठौरा छिन्, ठाउँ छैन बाहिर जाऊ, for instance. But this was Nepali language. If our students have the knowledge of dialect, they can guess. Then what is the result? When our students can analyze these components of literature, the result will be awareness of the social aspect of language, but with its variation. The students will have analytical skills and understanding from the point of view. Point of view is narrative technique, whether the first person narrative technique or third person. Enhanced ability of the students to interpret the text in the written and spoken discourse. And they can also use their understanding in various space situations. Stylistic approach is the best way to teach poetry for some reason. This is a systematic way of exploring literary text, language, how it creates meaning, style, and how does it create certain effect. One significant tool is point of view of the language, the writer's point of view, and the reader's point of view, both. Application of this method leaves enough space for the students to discuss. Why? The teacher will be controlling his or her time, provides both teacher and students with a cohesive and systematic way of literary analysis. Both of them work together, limits teacher taking to priming the students with time. Teacher gives more time to the students for thinking, and then the role of the teacher will be dominantly the role of the facilitator and the manager. Farewell to the conventional ways of lecturing and preaching, like lecture method will be subsided. Why? Because the students will be working and the teacher will be supporting them. Active students' involvement in the process of learning. Process dominates than the product here. Not only coming up with the final meaning, but working categorically, analyzing literary devices, drawing their meaning, and creating the effect in the piece of writing. According to my event 29, since stylistics deals with language and form, it can highlight the aesthetic value of literature. Literature has aesthetic value also. Literature has the value of appreciation also. So it is appreciation is one thing, and then your participation is another. Students participate and learn to appreciate the aesthetic value of the, like beauty is truth beauty, what John Keats says. So finally, thank you so much, friend. I spoke and spoke and spoke. Sorry about that. Maybe the other times, maybe in certain training sessions, we shall be able to interact. If you have any time for question and answer session, I shall be happy to answer. Otherwise, we will continue. We'll do in the future. Thank you. Thank you, DNG. Hello, friends. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm done now. If you have any question or what's your suggestion?
Okay, sir. We can just give 5 minutes for question answer session because the other sessions, I think the panelists have come here. So in the future, but one more important thing I got is now we have started, using the literacy and language teaching also. This is what the concept we are exploring now. Many comments are there, many questions are there. If anyone has query, please put your query. Sir. All right. So let me just request Surendra Oza General Secretary of Province-7, NELTA. Surendra sir, over to you. Surendra sir. Surendra sir. Okay. So, one question I will read for you, sir, as Gunraj Nepal has written here. Dear sir, there was a time English language education in Nepal had a very little literature content. Over the years, we can see that there is growing shift towards including more literature in English language teaching. But uh, there is a problem still. What he says, that having given this wonderful session on rich texture of literature, what do you think teacher educators and teachers need to do to exploit this vast treasure of literature?